Gabriel.
Nice to meet you as well. Okay, I'm a fifth grader, and we're doing this thing called exhibition. So on exhibition, we get assigned topics and we get assigned a mentor.
Uh,
Um, so basically, we have to know what our topic is and do the research about it. We were saying that we should probably do an interview with a professional, an official. And since
mhm.
the topic is flu, the best professional we know is someone who my mom might work with. So we found you, Dr. Odland.
Okay, that's fine. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Um, okay. Well, did you prepare answers for my questions, or do you want me to
Oh,
just?
I forgot did you have them there? You could just ask me. I looked at them, but I didn't think to print them or anything.
Okay. So let me start my voice recorder, and we can begin. Okay. So my first question is, what is the flu? You know, like the very essence of this virus.
Mhm. Influenza. First of all, people mean a lot of things when they say the flu. It's used very casually, like stomach flu or things like that. But the flu is influenza virus, and influenza has several types: A, B, C, and D. A and B are the big ones for people, and they're a viral. Viruses are not exactly alive, but they infect people and they reproduce within the cells of people or animals, bats, for example, and generate copies of themselves. And they can be made out of RNA or DNA. Influenza is made out of RNA. And it's usually very important and causing a lot of illness. This year, it's been very slight in the United States. Very little flu in the United States this year.
Okay. On to the next question. How do you get the flu?
The same way that you get coronavirus, it's a droplet, primarily a droplet transmission. So if you're within 6 feet of people that are somebody who has the flu and is coughing, mostly coughing, sneezing, not so much talking or singing or some of the things we worry about now, but it's a droplet transmission. So if you're within 6 feet of somebody and they're coughing, then you're exposed.
Okay. Thank you for that. And we have our next question. What happens to our bodies when we get the flu, or the symptoms?
Mm-hmm. The classic symptoms are fever, aching, coughing, sometimes gastrointestinal symptoms like upset stomach. But the primary symptoms are respiratory. Um, Now, they tend to be lower respiratory in the chest, more so than a common cold, which is more in the head and sinuses. But the upper respiratory system can be affected also. So typically, coughing, sometimes shortness of breath. And the real problem with that, most people get through that okay, but it weakens the system. So if you already have an underlying illness and you catch the flu, then you're in trouble. Or if you're overweight and catch the flu, you can be in trouble. And then also it breaks down your immune system a bit. Your immune system is busy fighting the flu, so some people start out with the flu and then they develop pneumonia of different sorts, different types of pneumonia.
Okay, thank you. Um, Next question. How have humans adapted to the flu?
I don't think they have. I don't think they have really. In terms of adaptation, the way it's usually meant, like growing fins or something like that. The it and there, humans adapted to a lot of different illnesses over time, but the flu is strange because it has several different variables that recombine. So there are different antigen systems on part of the flu, different viral strains, and they recombine every year. So if it were the same every year, we would develop some persisting immunity to it. But every year, it's like shaking up several dice and rolling them, and it comes out different. And that's why they have to make a new flu vaccine every year. The way they do that, the flu is one season off. So in the northern hemisphere, we're in one season, and the southern hemisphere is in a different season. So they sample different flus around the world, and then they kind of make their best guess as to what's going to be here the next year and make a vaccine for that. But because it recombines every year, the different components can recombine in different ways. That keeps us from developing immunity as a population. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does a lot of sense. Thank you for that. How are the different types of flu similar?
So there's the ones that really affect humans are A and B, and they're not really distinguishable. Now, some forms of A, for example, in 2009, we had something called H1N1. H is one of the variables, N is the other variable. So we had H type 1 and N type 9 that recombine to make a particularly aggressive form of the flu. So it varies more from year to year than it's usually there's only one or two strains out every year. So every year we get reinfected as a population with a different strain. Um, I forgot what your question was. I'm sorry. Yeah, with the different types of flu. Okay, then there's always the usage where people say, well, I have stomach flu, or, I think I have the flu, or something like that. It's used kind of colloquially when it doesn't really mean influenza.
Okay. Next question. What are the different perspectives on the flu vaccine?
It's better than nothing. So every year, at the end of the year, they kind of see how they did every year in terms of generating protection. So there are two types of protection you get. What you're really hoping to get is complete protection, so you don't even get the flu. But even if you do get the flu when you've had a vaccine, your immune system is a little bit prepared and you don't get as sick. So that the total protection rates can be as low as 25 or 30% some years, and as high as 50 or 60% some years. And I think this year, because of the coronavirus, the COVID, people got more flu vaccines than we have recently. There were more flu vaccines, something like 190 million flu vaccines were sent out in the United States. That's pretty good. And if you look at what's happened, you hear about herd immunity when they're discussing COVID, that, when we get a certain number of people vaccinated, we won't have to worry because it won't be able to spread. I think we hit that with flu vaccine this year because there's very little flu. If you Google flu map, it comes up with a map of where the flu is breaking out in the United States. Now, typically this time of year, most of the United States is very active in flu. This year, almost none. It may be because we're wearing masks. It may be because more people got vaccinated, but very, very little. So the flu vaccine is helpful, but it's not perfect. If it were perfect, everybody would get it every year. But it's marginal. It helps. It really does help, but it's not perfect.
Okay. And our final question. What is our responsibility for preventing ourselves from getting the flu?
I think we've all been educated this year because the coronavirus is so serious that we're all taking the hand washing and the masks and the social distancing very seriously. And that's been helping with COVID, but it's been really, really effective with the flu. One of the things that we've always struggled with is, I think I'm a little bit sick. Should I go to school? Should I go to work? I can't miss work because, I'll lose money or whatever reason, or because I'm important and I have to be there. But then we've all taken ourselves into work or to school when we're sniffling or coughing. And that's a terrible idea. And there are rules that people have, like attendance rules for work or for school, that encourage people to come to work sick. And this year, we're taking that very seriously, and we're telling people don't come to work, even if you think you're sick, even if we don't know you have COVID. So I think the general rules are staying away from others when you're sick. That's the most helpful thing. That protects the community. Now we all seem to be wearing masks, which other countries have done that before and reduces their flu rate. I would imagine we'll be wearing masks for a while. And I hope that flu doesn't start to come back more when we take off our masks after the COVID pandemic. I don't know that that's a responsibility, but it's a good idea. I think our responsibilities are, if you're sick, don't go around others. I think that's the main responsibility. And I think the flu vaccine is a good idea. You know, we used to treat some sports teams, and these are big, strong people that think, well, nothing's going to happen to me. But you can tell them, well, do you want to be there during the playoffs? Do you want to, do you want to be there during the tournaments, or do you want to be out sick? So the flu vaccine is a very good idea. And I think this year's experience in the United States shows that if enough people get the flu vaccine, it really doesn't spread. So I think that's almost a responsibility.
Okay. Well, thank you.